Team, welcome to this PayTrace Power30. My name is Sam Johnson. I'll be your host today. If you are new to Power30, I'm looking over these names. I see a lot of familiar ones. There's Carrie hopping into the chat. If you're new to this, what to expect? These are 30-minute webinar sessions really geared towards learning a little bit more about PayTrace in the industry. We usually invite an industry expert. In this case, you're stuck with Justin Potter. I'm just kidding. That wasn't the reaction I expected. No, this time we have Justin Potter, our client services manager. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you, Sam. Good to be here.
It's good to have you here, man. This has been a long time coming. Team, we want these to be engaging and interactive. So as we go through today's presentation, I want you guys to open up the Q&A box. If you have questions, comments, emotional outbursts, send them in. We're going to be chit-chatting here for about 20 or so minutes, and then we're going to take about the last 5 to 10 minutes for some Q&A. So earlier you get those questions in, the better. We can answer them live. Anything that's not answered on today's session, we will make sure that we follow up with you after the fact. So this is Justin's first time. Normally, we like to get to know our guests a little bit better. So I've got a little introduction prepared. Justin Potter is our client services manager. He hired me. So you have him to thank for that, unfortunately. Justin is the big guns. He is my first PayTrace boss. And he showed me how to get muscles like Hulk Hogan. I don't even know if you remember that, Justin, but you told me how Hulk Hogan trains to get his big arms. So thank you for that.
Right.
I've got
not a lot of weight, just a lot of repetition.
Just a lot of reps. Keep going on them reps. Well, one thing that many people may or may not know about Justin is that he is a big football fan, specifically a Chicago Bears fan. And I was ready to come into this, ready to drill you down, but Bears had a big win last week over the Raiders, not to date this webinar or anything. But I want to know, how did you become a Chicago Bears fan?
Well, it's a crazy story. My dad was actually a Green Bay Packer fan. So it doesn't make sense how I became a Chicago Bears fan. I'm a middle child. And so I got to watch a lot of NFC North football. Mm-hmm. And when I was a kid, it was about Walter Payton. I thought he was just the coolest thing of all time, and I thought their uniforms were cool. So I'm one of those loyal type of people. So I jumped on the Bears bandwagon at a very young age, and I just stuck to it. And I almost regret it because I live in Washington. Seattle Seahawks have got a couple Super Bowls. Never jumped ship, though. I've still been riding with the Bears.
So Bears.
That's right.
Well, this January 2nd, what analysts are calling the matchup of the century, Justin's Chicago Bears versus Sam's New York Giants, is going to happen. And I want to know from our audience, who do you predict is going to win this matchup? And Justin, I think I want to make this a little interesting. Yesterday in the mail, I got this sweet Eli Manning jersey. I don't know if you can see that here with my background. But I'm thinking at our all-company meeting, depending on who wins this game, the loser has to wear the other's jersey. What do you think?
Deal. Oh, deal. Done. Justin Fields is going to be prime, ready to go.
Over Danny Jones? Yeah, we'll see. All right, I'm looking over at the poll. It looks like more folks are leaning Bears than Giants, but you never know. I think there might be an upset. Anywho, got that out of the way. Let's talk about some good payment stuff. Now, we titled this revenue equals, or retention equals revenue, right? We try to keep these things kind of sales focused. Now, oh no, Jason says that we should shave our heads. We're not doing that, Jason. I'm not doing that. I don't have enough hair to shave my head. Retention equals revenue, right? We're keeping the sales focused because a lot of what client support does has a lot of sales overlay and can lead towards longer lasting accounts. Recently, I was on a call with Roger McNamara. He's a B2B sales trainer. If you haven't talked to him or seen any of his content, please look him up. He's an awesome dude. But one of his 5 pillars of B2B sales is client service. And that's basically what Justin does in a nutshell. Now, Justin, when it comes to PayTrace client support, we're always talking about how we have 5-star support, 5-star service. It's kind of one of the big differentiators of PayTrace compared to a lot of the other solutions out there. In your opinion, what really sets PayTrace apart from some of the other, payment companies out there?
Yeah, I think it's, to go along with that, it is the 5-star support and having a team that buys into that. I think that's the crucial part. So it's one thing to say, oh, we have 5-star support. It's another to try to track that and then try to see how we're doing with that. One of the main things that we do, Sam, is around our SLAs. We believe it's extremely important to answer the call by a live rep quickly. So we count that as 20 seconds. Within 20 seconds, you're going to get to a live rep and be able to have that live rep answer any of the questions that come in to our team. Our goal for that is 85%. Since we've been tracking that, we've hit that every single year. This year, we're right at 85.1%. We've had some ups and downs, but we all look at that number and strive to actually hit that number. We also think that what sets us apart from the competition is not just answering the phones quickly, but are we doing it at a high level? So some of the things that we do is we utilize third-party tools to track our first call resolution and to kind of gauge that score. We've had a lot of people on the client services team over the years, and when we bring in new people, we see that number dip. But the fact that we're able to identify when it dips and then bring those people up to get it back to the standard that we're accustomed to, super important. So we want to be able to get you on the phone quickly, not send you through a phone queue, and then get you off the phone with your question answered at a high level the first time.
That's a pretty big deal. So basically, if anybody on this call right now, and maybe not everybody on the call, because that might not be good, but if somebody was to literally pick up the phone right now and call our number, you'd probably put money on the fact that we'd answer right away.
Correct. We do that on product demonstrations. We'll pick up the phone call on certain product demonstrations just to show it off. We're proud of it.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And I think one thing that you called out is the fact that, we do bring in new people, but we retain industry expertise. That's kind of one of our core value, is retaining expertise and really being leaders. So first call resolution, I think, is a really good demonstration of that, right? The fact that when somebody calls in, they're going to get the phone answered and they're going to get their question answered is a big deal. Talk about our team a little bit and who are the types of people that we bring on.
Yeah, so Spokane, we got a lot of blue collar hard workers in Spokane. We got competitive folks that come in. The team has gone through a lot of team members, as I mentioned previously. Just to kind of mention that at PayTrace, we've had 16 people come out of our department, the client services team, and go into new roles. So I was marking some of that down before the call. We have our ISV manager, the developer support engineer, senior account executives, Sam, a sales trainer, DevOps engineers, software test engineers, financial analysts, department manager and leads, product analysts and owners. They're spread throughout the entire organization. So we bring in folks that have a competitive spirit, that look to get better each day, have a growth mindset, and they come in and they see, man, I'm coming in and I have to live up to the results of people from the past.
Yeah.
And that's big. They see that as a goal. They take steps to move in that direction. And as a result of everyone else being successful in their newer roles and at one time starting in the client services team, it drives motivation with the newer folks to strive to get to that level and deliver the results that everyone's used to.
Yeah, absolutely. And even within the sales team, which I know we've had a lot of the sales folks on here, myself, Marcy, Nikki, we all came from client service on PayTrace. So I think it really speaks to the fact that, we're not just people that our team isn't just resetting passwords. We are experts at what we do. The fact that we've got developers now and we've got engineers and techie people and salespeople, it's pretty amazing. So just a shout out, you do an amazing job, Justin, not to butter you up anymore, at really cultivating some of these teams. Now, one thing that you didn't mention yet about the value of specifically of PayTrace's client support team, get this back to the sales side of things, is demos. I know that we've done a lot of reporting really over the last maybe 2 years or so about, how are our sales demos doing? which is what your team manages. Can you talk a little bit about maybe the thoughts behind our sales demos and what success that we've seen with that?
No, for sure. So the product demonstrations, as a lot of sales reps who are on this call know, it takes some time to actually convert an account. So a couple of years back, 2018, we wanted to try to capture how many of these prospective merchants that you guys are bringing on for a product demonstration are actually turning into a live merchant. It was a number that we ended up determining. It takes up to 6 months sometimes to figure that out as to what that actual score is. But last year, 2020, converted 55.6% of product demonstrations, which is crazy. The year before was 43.4% of product demonstrations that actually turned into a live merchant. Now, obviously, from our team, we don't have a lot of salespeople on our team. We have some folks that are a little better than others, but we have a lot of folks that understand the system and can show the ease of use and all of the benefits that you can have by utilizing the PayTrace service in level 2 and level 3 savings. But what makes these things successful is working with the sales partners and having skilled sales partners to where at the end of that call, we can pass it over to them, and then they can come through and tell them about the savings. And they can come through and say, hey, the benefits of moving you over to a level 2 and level 3 processor like PayTrace is you guys are going to save this. I mean, it's a pretty easy sell, you know, and to have those numbers that we were showing, we were really pumped up about it. My team really wasn't surprised. They actually had a higher number. They think, man, I always leave with a pretty good impression that this person's pumped up at how easy it is to use and that I'm going to save money.
Yeah.
You know, so to see it on actual paper was pretty cool.
And I think it's something that really blows my mind. I've been telling people 53s and I can say 55. So thank you for that. You know, being an outside sales rep previously, my closure rate, if I was pitching a proposal, was probably closer to somewhere between 10 and 20%. The fact that we're converting over half of these demos, and not to say this is all PayTrace, right? Our partners are putting in a lot of legwork on these things, but especially on a B2B sale, right? I've seen a lot of reps do more retail payments, restaurants, they're quick turnarounds, right? B2B is a lot more complex. There's a lot more stakeholders. I think the value of having an expert like PayTrace in your back pocket to be able to help you navigate some of that and help close the deal is really impressive. And the fact that we don't charge for this, right, is pretty cool. I would have loved a resource like this when I was selling back when. So that's some good stuff. Now, we were talking a little bit about retention earlier. And, you know, from a sales perspective, when I'm training people, I do a lot of training about how to land new accounts, right? How to leverage technology to get new business. And that's great, right? We're always looking to grow our portfolios, but I think one area that's often overlooked is retention. And when I think about that, I really think of client service, right? When we're talking about retention equals revenue, it's one thing to get a new merchant in your portfolio, but if they only stick around for 6 months to a year, you're not making a huge lifetime value on that account. But when you're leveraging some of the tools that we provide with service, right, that could be 3-4x of the profitability. Justin, I feel like I'm rambling. We've done a lot of research into attrition, retention, right? What keeps merchants here? Why are they leaving? What are you seeing from your seat about what are some of the things that are, why are merchants leaving? I think is a big question.
You know, that's a good question. So we have a couple different tools that we utilize to try to answer that question. The first is if a merchant contacts PayTrace wanting to close their account, our team's going to ask the question. We're going to ask them, hey, just out of curiosity to help us get better, why are you leaving PayTrace? So we'll take that opportunity and we'll document that ticket. So we have a lot of good documentation just around that question, and it flows over the year. It changes over the years. Over the past year and a half, not surprisingly, merchants' businesses are closing, right? We see that as a big reason why. We also see things like pricing being something where I remember when I was a manager of a restaurant, it felt like I was getting pitched monthly by different merchant service providers. Hey, I can get you this rate. I can get you this rate. A lot of those merchants end up coming back after the word, the sales pitch wasn't as accurate as what they ended up finding out. So we see a little bit with pricing. One thing that really stood out to us though is we see a lot of people enjoy the system and they end up staying with PayTrace, going with a different provider. So it gives the provider a tool to be able to figure out, hey, am I set right for my merchants? Do I have everything in place? Is my support going well? What could be the reasons that they're leaving me but staying with PayTrace? We have that data that we can share with folks. And then the other tool that we use is our voice of the customer. So we'll send out surveys to all new merchants 60 days after they sign up. We'll send them out a survey, ask them how they're doing, what they like about the system, what they don't like about the system. We'll ask them to give us a grade of 1 to 10. And then we'll also do the same when they close an account. We'll send them a survey and ask them, how can we improve? And there's some data there that we found is beneficial as to getting better in certain areas. One of the things I could think of, merchants really didn't like Java dependent devices.
Yeah.
We saw that. They didn't like restrictions on what browser they had to use in order to get something to work, right? So we learned from that. We did a couple things. We got rid of that old EMV device. We brought in a brand new EMV device that was in the cloud environment that didn't require Java, that you can use on any browser of your choosing. We did the same thing with the printers. We got a cloud printer. We got the Star Micronics TSP 650. It can work on any browser. It doesn't utilize Java. That was based on feedback. So definitely we try to use the data that's coming in and respond to it to get better, to make our merchants happy.
I love that. I love the fact that we're listening and actually taking in the feedback from a lot of folks, because I know I hated our Java restricted devices. And when we got our new Augusta devices that work on the desktop browser, those things are pretty sweet. But you mentioned that some merchants move from one processor to another, or they might leave or come back. What is some advice that maybe you could help provide some of our partners on this call to avoid some of those issues?
I think if we go through it like in detail, Sam, I think just stressing to the support team, whatever support number you give our team to provide your merchants in scenarios where we need to get them back to your team, making sure that support team is familiar with who PayTrace is. I think that right there, that might cause some frustration that we see in our feedback of folks, that there's a delay in maybe getting a product added or getting something updated on the account per our agreement. It has to go back through some of the resellers. That might cause some frustration. And then to maybe just take the data in your one-on-ones with the account executives. If you guys have any questions, we can share that data in depth with you guys to show you, hey, maybe we need to focus here. But there's not really one piece that fits all resellers, Sam. It's different for each reseller. Like if I pull out the merchant closure reasons for a specific sales partner, it might tell a completely different story than if I do it for someone else. Someone else might be delivering really high in one area and not so much in another. It's different. But the point being is we have the data for each reseller.
Right.
So,
and I think that data, I'm guessing some people on this call might be like, well, what's this data? I haven't seen any of this data. We do have the data, and we try to do a pretty good job on sharing that data. Usually our sales team, so Marcy, Michael, Randy, Nikki, Eric, you guys know a lot of them from previous Power30s and other webinars. We go out and we share this data with the leadership of your organizations. If you have an interest in seeing that data, let us know. I'm totally cool throwing our sales team under the bus. Reach out to us, sales@paytrace.com, because we want this data to have value to you, right? We want these merchant accounts to be happy as the gateway to happy. It's a big deal for us to have them stick around. And we want to lead that to future improvement between our partnership. So if you want to know what your customers are saying, what your merchants are saying, let us know, and we can start having those conversations. I want to take a pause, Justin, because I did get a question in here from Todd. And I think you know what Todd I'm talking about. Todd's the champ. Todd's asking, when sales agents do their own PayTrace demos, product knowledge and confidence is gained, improving future sales and retention success since they have a good understanding of PayTrace. Do you, Justin, I'll answer this. I'm curious of your response, but do you think this is a good practice for agents to really take ownership of their own demos, maybe as opposed to using PayTraces?
100%. I think that works well, especially if you have an agent that understands our product at a high level. You know, we know Todd understands our product at a high level. That could definitely work. Because like I said, my team's not necessarily going to have a high sales IQ. You know, we might have folks that understand sales, but we understand the product. So if a sales agent with a high sales IQ understands our product at a high level, I could see success being the same, you know, if not better. So absolutely, I would agree with that.
Yeah. And I would add to that, when I did demos, and I hosted a lot of demos on client services, some of the best demos that I had were working really strongly in tandem with that sales rep, right? Let PayTrace be the product expert, the technology expert, the level 3 expert, because that can get really complex sometimes. Right, we'll manage that conversation. But when it comes to merchant services, when it comes to the relationship building, the rapport, that's all on you guys. So being super present and being involved in that demo and building that rapport, I think having those two things in tandem really lead to that success. Because I know a lot of the times, right, you get on a demo and you just throw it over the fence and say, you've got it. That can work. But really, if you want it to be successful, staying involved is going to help out. Now, Todd is an expert. He's been doing PayTrace for much longer than I've worked here. But I would say if you're newer to PayTrace, or if you only have a couple PayTrace accounts, definitely leverage our resources, leverage our demo calendar, because when you do that, you're going to gain that knowledge. You're going to learn how we do it, and then you can take it and run with it on your own. So I think that would be my recommendation. Question coming in from Tom is, can you provide statement pricing analysis for us? Potter, you guys get this question all the time, right? When a rep calls in and they say, I've got a merchant statement, can you help me out? What's kind of the typical response that we'll have?
So we can't necessarily go over why the transaction's downgraded. We don't get to see it after it settles. However, if you guys bring us in questions on a particular transaction in question, we know where to go to figure out what was potentially missed from that transaction. For example, if you have transactions that have downgraded that you think should have been approved at a higher rate, our team is well trained in being able to identify what was missed, go over some of the level 2 and level 3 data, and give you an answer as to it. This is what looks like happened. If we get into one of those situations where we're not able to really find it, we're going to escalate it to our team. We're not going to let it go silent, you know. And to be honest with you, most of the time, 99% of the time, we can find the answer as to what happened with that particular transaction. Not really going to be able to go over the statement in detail, though. That's kind of out of our realm, but we can go over specific transactions for sure.
And I'll add this, Tom, if you are looking at a merchant statement that's not PayTrace already, and you want to see, you know, what the benefit of PayTrace would be, we do have a partner called ISOAMP. You may know him as James Shepard, or the CC Sales Pro. James is partnered with PayTrace. He will do statement analyses. There is a cost and things involved with that, but he's going to be the guy that's going to help you navigate some of those pricing questions. So I would definitely recommend using ISOAMP. It's called getisoamp.com if you have statement questions like that as well. Let me see. Question. Todd, right on. Keep up the great work. I love you, Todd. You're awesome. One thing I wanted to wrap up with, because I see that we're running out of time. Recently, we've had a bit of a focus on merchant activation. I think that's been one of the gaps that I see as we monitor accounts. And right, as you see an account get built, they can sit there for weeks or months at a time and nobody's using it. And we see that as a big issue. Justin, your team did a refresh on our welcome email. What's been going on with that?
Definitely. Yeah. So we revamped our welcome letter, long time coming. What we really wanted to do was we wanted to put a brand new account training video in place for all of your new merchants. So anytime a new user or an admin of an account gets a new PayTrace account, we're going to give them access to that 15-minute, 30,000-foot view account training. So you can go over the basics. They can train their employees, get them up and processing quicker. What that will also do is leave open more time on the calendar for product demonstrations, is the ultimate goal. But a lot of those trainings will leave an hour slot. As you know, a lot of them are quick. We can get in and out in 15 to 20 minutes on those. So we said, hey, how can we do this better? Get the merchant up and running quicker, not have to wait for an account training. Let's revamp that welcome letter. Let's get them access to an account training that they can send to their employees and get them processing quicker. Was the ultimate goal for that. So if you guys have seen that new welcome letter, that was the kind of the idea behind that. We want to get them activating quicker.
I've actually got a copy of it ready to go because I was prepared to ask this question. But this is what it looks like, team. If you haven't boarded a new account and seen this in the last, when did this go out, Justin? 2 months ago or so?
Yep.
About 2 months. Did a nice refresh. So when the ops team boards that new PayTrace account, this is the first thing that your merchant sees from PayTrace. It's clean, and we've updated the welcome, the training video. So our old training video was from like a decade ago. Like Justin said, this one I think is just over 16 minutes. And this will walk the merchant through step by step how to use their new account, how to get going, so that transition is smooth. Because what's the point of going through this huge, multi-month process if you're going to build an account and they're not going to use it? And we see that more often than we'd like to. So what we're hoping is that you can use this as a tool to get them activated quickly, because what we find, and I don't have the specific statistic in front of me, but merchants that start processing within the first month are way more likely, I want to say at least 2 times as likely to stay on past a year than somebody that's not. So this is something that we're really encouraging to use. And if you want access to this, I believe our marketing team is going to send a follow-up email after this to everybody that's registered, so you have access to this video, you have access to this link, and that you can review it, right? I think that's a good call to action, is check out the video, get familiar with it, and then you can share this with your clients if you need to.
And really quickly, Sam, I did see that we had a question there. We have it on our help site right now, help.paytrace.com. If you go there, at the bottom where there's recommended videos, click on that link. It'll take you to the link and you can see that video. We have it posted on the site right there. Another cool thing that we noticed is when we were hosting videos on YouTube or another third-party site, certain merchants had restrictions on which websites they're able to go to. We have this website hosted on our PayTrace site, so that shouldn't be an issue.
Absolutely. So we'll get you that link. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. One thing that I did want to add before we wrap this up is we did put a lot of stress on demos, and I want to make sure that everybody has access to it. You know where to find the links to schedule these. So if you go to our website, if you go to paytrace.com, scroll down towards the bottom, and you'll see this blue section here. You've got a link to schedule account training. This is going to be really good for new merchant accounts that you've just brought on, getting them kind of the extra mile outside of the video. But for more of a sales product demonstration, use this link. This will pull up our calendar, grab a time, we'll send out a meeting invite, and put any relevant notes to that account in the comments on there. That helps us out quite a bit so that we can plan out the demo, so that's going to be the most effective. So if you've never done this before, I encourage you, next time you have a B2B prospect, schedule a demo with Justin's team. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised by how that turns out and how much quickly we can help expedite that process. I know that we're a minute over time. Justin, any final thoughts?
Only thing I said, we did a lot of hype job for the team, and I think it's well deserved. I wanted to represent the client services team at a high level. But I also wanted to let you know, we understand that there are going to be times where the volume to our team gets a little overwhelming. We saw that last week with Payment Link. So to rest assured everyone, if we get 1,000 tickets in a day, my team is going to respond to all 1,000 tickets. That's one thing I can guarantee you guys. We'll get back to all of you guys. We appreciate your patience. We're there for you. We want to make your merchants happy. We want to make you guys happy. And thanks for being a part of the call today.
Awesome. Justin, thank you so much, man. Again, been looking forward to this call for a long time. Glad we were able to make it happen. And pass that on to your team as well. They make my job so much easier, and I hope that they make the jobs easier for our partners on this call. Team, look forward to that follow-up email. If you have any questions for myself, for Justin, the best way to follow up with us, shoot me an email at salestraining@paytrace.com. Again, salestraining@paytrace.com. We can forward that question out to whoever needs to see it. And again, thank you all for hanging out with us today, and have a fantastic rest of your week.